Dear first year medical students, welcome to the first lecture on medical parasitology titled General Concepts of Parasitology and Parasitism. This is Dr. Manar, Sobh Azab, Professor of Medical Parasitology. Medical parasitology deals with microorganisms called parasites that have diverse relation to its host. You will have information on different types of both the parasite and the host, relations between both, the man to animal and vice versa zoonosis, and finally the categories of parasites you are going to deal with during your medical study. In every lecture, through a clinical case, you will learn how to manage and use available symptoms, signs, or other data to reach proper diagnosis. Are you interested? I hope you are. Let's start. A parasite is an organism that lives in or on another organism which is named the host. Why? The main aim of parasitism is that the parasite gains benefit in the form of nourishment and protection from the host that usually suffers from such association. This is an example of an ectoparasite, head louse, holding scalp hair shaft. Another one living inside and filling the intestinal lumen. Okay, this takes us to the different types of parasites. We have 8 types. The obligatory parasite, compared to the facultative, cannot complete its life cycle without a suitable host, while the facultative parasite can live freely in soil or water when environmental conditions are favorable. Can you see the rings inside the RBCs? These are the plasmodia causing malaria, an example of an obligatory parasite. In this slide, you can observe the parasite has the ability to live freely in the environment, hence named a facultative parasite. The third is the accidental parasite. The accidental parasites are entirely free-living organisms, but may enter the human body by mistake. See in here larvae of flies that are accidentally ingested and live in the intestine of man. The temporary, as mosquitoes just take a blood meal from the host then leave. The specific parasites has limited host range. The importance of this is you can easily control such infection by proper treatment of the affected cases. When the parasite species is foreign to the host but just passed through the alimentary canal without affecting the host, it is coprozoic. Finally, and based on the habitat of the parasite, it is either an ecto or an endoparasite. Fine? Now, let's move to the host, the other member in parasitism. The parasite passes through several young larval stages before reaching the mature adult stage. The host or hosts carrying the immature larval stages of the parasite is called the intermediate host, while the host carrying the adult parasite is the definitive host. The reservoir host is an animal that carries the adult parasite and should be considered in parasite control as it passes infections to humans. The fourth type is the transport host. The parasite uses the transport host as a mean of transport. They neither multiply nor develop from one stage to another in the transport host. Review this life cycle and find out the definitive, the reservoir, and intermediate hosts. Examine this one and notice that this parasite uses fish as a mean of transport before infecting its final suitable host. As the name implies, in the dead end host, the parasite is no longer able to be transmitted to others. Its life cycle stops in the dead end host, as it is usually an unnatural host to the parasite. Here's an example of a parasite that naturally reaches the adult stage in intestine of dogs and other carnivores. If this parasite accidentally infects humans, it is no longer able to mature or propagate, and man here is considered the dead-end host. The last type is the vector. When the host that transmits the parasite from one host to another is an arthropod, it is called the vector of the disease. What's the nature or types of interactions between parasites and hosts? We have 4 types: the parasitism, the commensalism, mutualism, and phoresis. In parasitism, the parasite benefits on the expense of the other that suffers from such association. So in here, the host is suffering from parasitism. In commensalism, both organisms live together and the commensal organism benefits without causing harm to the other. In mutualism, both organisms benefit from the association. In the 4th type, the phoresis, there is no dependency but just carriage. Here is an example of a mutual relation between termites that provide a home for intestinal flagellates that in turn digest wood that the termite feeds on. There is a large category of diseases that are transmissible between animals and humans. These are the zoonoses. Anthropozoonosis is maintained in nature by animals and transmissible to humans, while zooanthroponosis is naturally maintained by humans but can be transmissible to other vertebrates. Anthroponosis is another term where parasitic infections are found in man alone. Don't worry about the medical terms, you will be soon familiar with. Zoonoses can be classified according to the source of infection into domestic and sylvatic, and according to the method of transmission into direct, meta, and saprozoonosis. In direct zoonosis, infection is directly transmitted from infected meal, for example, to man, while in metazoonosis, infection is transmitted to man via an arthropod. In saprozoonosis, a non-animal developmental site, as the soil and water, is responsible for transmission of infection. Finally, in the upcoming lectures, parasites that you are going to gain information about are either parasitic helminthes or worms, protozoa, and arthropods that act as an agent causing illness or as a vector responsible for disease transmission. I hope you are interested. Thank you.